Alright, so here goes. So first of all, this game takes an interesting turn compared to the last two, where you went to space and instead has you going to a deep, sprawling underground city. The final level actually warns you before entering that it's going to be something of a final test for everything you've learned throughout the game. So if you've been neglecting your abilities, you may want to go back and brush up on them, but the real kicker is the game suddenly drops a life system on you, and it's entirely based on how many medals you've collected. So if you haven't done more than the base amount you needed to get to this point, and you're not super confident you can get away with a small number of extra chances in this long and challenging final stage, you may want to consider going back and getting more medals to give yourself more of a buffer. Of course, once you get to the end of this final challenge, this is where the plot dumps like an elephant after burrito night. Spark confronts the now very Freem-esque Fark and asks him to disband the Force, only to instead be smacked in the face with one hell of a big revelation. The Force was truly and legally established to counteract the issue of clarity, the singularity AI that was birthed from the Megaraph, who the Force comes to discover her ultimate goal to assimilate all life into her system. The Force's only way to counteract this was to have everyone on the planet break away from the networks that controlled everything and rely on old-fashioned ways of getting things done, hence why Spark couldn't draw money from his account at the drop of a hat anymore. However, this didn't stop Clarity's plans, and thanks to Spark's actions against Fark Force, she took the opening made to slip in and overtake the whole operation from within. Because the girl who joined up with Spark was another of Clarity's agents all along. Float, that's right, the same Float who Fark killed in the last game was recreated as a full-bodied forming as a guise for Clarity to join Spark so she could gain control over everything Fark sought to protect. And the biggest bombshell. All this already happened a long time ago, and your journey through the game has been one big long ever-looping simulation inside Clarity's systems. Everything and everyone has been assimilated, and it's all Spark's fault. Naturally, this sends our hero into existential crisis mode and things get freaky. At first, you take control of Fark, now back in his original form, to fight against Spark as he's being controlled by Clarity and taking the form of that weird shadow creature from Fark's story from the first Spark game. Interesting nod there. Once this is done, there's this interesting little moment where Spark learns a few things about how long it's actually been since he fucked everything up, and how to actually deal with Clarity once and for all. At which point he and Fark fuse into this thing called Sparks, and I'm just so completely at a loss for words at this point. Just what? Then the final battle with the true form of Clarity happens, and that's the end of it. Spark takes control of the system and plans to sacrifice himself to undo the harm he's done, bringing true peace back to the world once more. Spark ain't having none of that shit and turns into... Okay, I don't even get it at all at this point. Just... what? Bottom line, they agree not to let Spark kill himself and instead help Fark from inside the system to restore the world, or something like that. I don't know! I checked out the moment Sparks appeared because, Jesus Christ, this is all hitting the fan all at once, and the very end of the game was such a massive bag of whiplash. Like, holy crap, this series started out with a simple and rather lighthearted tale of an otherwise ordinary guy becoming a hero and saving the world from a tyrannical robot overlord, and now it's just become Evangelion? There's even a point where Clarity does a meta jab at players since Spark has been caught in this loop so many times, doing things in different ways. It reminded me of Metal Gear Solid 2. And with that in mind, I just wanted to put the controller down. Not because I necessarily felt bad, but because I wanted to tune this crap out. I mean, this is a goddamn video game about running fast and booping robots, and it's basically trying to shame me for trying to be a speedrunner? Fuck you, game! You don't get to do that! I play games to escape from reality, not be judged for mass genocide of a load of stupid pixels! You're not real! I don't care! Sorry, just needed to get that out of my system. But yeah, that ending was so many degrees of out there for a game series of this relative tone, and as you can probably gather, it doesn't hit the mark for me. I played games with tonal dissonance before that did some stupidly out there things that did indeed hit the mark well with me regardless of the fact. My problem here is that in this game, you get a lot of nothing, leading into a finale that just beats you over the head. Sure, it's vaguely hinted at when you learn Float's name and backstory that something seems a bit off, especially if you remember the last game where Fark killed her. Not to mention the revelation that Astra was actually a robot and a direct agent of Clarity in the last game. And of course, having played Spark 2, I had more than a hunch going in what Spark would end up doing in this game would end up going one of two ways. Either the last game was all one long drawn-out mindfuck and Spark was in the right, or Spark was in the wrong and doing what he has would be disastrous. I just didn't expect it to be the latter with a twist of existential nightmare. Honestly, the worst part, the absolute worst part of this whole ending to me was when Fark said his biggest mistake was never reaching out to Spark. Like, no fucking shit, Sherlock! Did it really never occur to him throughout the whole of Spark's rampage across the planet to, approach him? Just come out of your hole for a bit, sit his ass down with a cup of joe and be like, dude, I know you're kind of pissed off. Hear me out.
You're doing bad, lad!
I suppose there's a risk that coming out into the open would expose him to Clarity, but considering what they had to protect, I'd say it would be worth more than the risk to just approach Spark and give the whole thing to him straight. Or better yet, they could have tracked him down from the start and let him in on the big plan. After all, he saved the world from Freeman the first time, and well, it may not necessarily be canon that they became friends after the first game, but I still can't imagine them being on completely bad terms either. At least not until making the Force and running afoul of Spark's money problems again. The point is the revelation that Fark didn't even try and only reflects upon this now at the end. It just kind of pissed me off on top of everything else. Like, if he had tried and failed, that would be one thing, but god damn! There's a lot of things about the story of this game that just don't work for me, and while at the end of the day, I'm in this more for the gameplay, I'm still not just gonna let that slide. Am I really alone in this though, or am I just wrong? I'm already just pressed as hell, and the second guessing my feelings so much has already been an existential trip in and of itself, and I just don't want to deal with games like this toying with my already tenuous feelings. Frickin' hell. Well, that's all.